Currently, Moonswatch might be the most hated watch on the internet. But it's not that bad though. Is it perfect? No. Does it have some problems? Yes. At the end of the day, it successfully accomplishes everything it set out to accomplish. In today's video, I'm going to tell you why I think Moonswatch is actually not that bad and why some people might be too harsh on it. Now let's address some of the negatives first. The negatives kind of break down into two different categories. The negatives with the release and the company itself, and the negatives with the watch specifically. The negatives with the release are sort of very obvious. It all comes down to hype. This watch is not a limited release watch. However, it's a very difficult watch to buy to this day. They're pretty much sold out at all Swatch stores. And even though the prices on the resale market have come down quite a bit since the peak, they're still stupidly high. If you have one takeaway from this video, let it be this. Don't pay over the retail price for this watch. It's not worth it. This is not a limited release, and with a little bit of patience, you will be able to find one at the store at the retail price as it should be sold. So the hype of this watch became its biggest negative. For some reason, some watch collectors like to hate watches that become too popular. This watch in fact became so popular that it crossed its way into the pop culture, away from a small circle of watch enthusiasts only, and now, just to give you an example, my 18-year-old nephew, who couldn't be bothered with mechanical watches or analog watches, not only knows what this watch is, but actually wants one. Even the stores that resell popular collector shoes and Supreme stickers or whatever have these watches in stock. People are willing to pay multiples of the retail price just to get their hands on one, and it's not just watch collectors this time, it's just regular kids like my nephew. The bigger issue with all of this is not even the watch's popularity, it's the fact that Swatch Group seems to be playing into this whole popularity. I think they have an ability to fairly easily mass produce these watches and fulfill the demand, but they're on purpose holding some of that inventory back, trying to create more hype, more demand, and not to flood the market with inventory. Now, of course, a lot of this is speculation, but that's generally the sentiment right now in the market, that Swatch is taking advantage of this whole situation. Now, I believe they can easily mass produce these watches because the watches themselves are fairly simple. So now that we addressed the problems with the release and the Swatch as is, now let's talk about some of the negatives that come with the watch itself. And as I said, it's a pretty simple watch to produce because it's pretty much all plastic. Seems like bioceramic really is a fancy word for plastic. It's a plastic case watch with the plastic crystal. Because all the materials used here are very light, the watch itself is very light. It feels almost like a toy in your hand. Our brain has this weird thing where we contribute half to good quality and something being overly light and kind of hollow feeling to bad quality, and this watch feels kind of more light and hollow like a toy. Now, it doesn't feel more light and hollow than other Swatch watches. It basically feels like any other Swatch watch that you would hold in your hand. I think some people maybe were expecting it to be a little bit more hefty, which it isn't. I've heard somewhere that the word Swatch stands for second watch, which this watch is intended to be. It's not intended to be your serious watch. It's not intended to be your everyday watch. It's your second watch, the watch that you would wear for fun, and that's what this watch feels like because it was intended for that. The movement on this Moonswatch is also very simple. It's basically the same mecha quartz movement that Swatch has been making since 1980s. It measures 1/10 of a second, which is pretty cool, I guess, but everything else about it is kind of ordinary. There is even a ghost position, which I don't like. Because these movements were used in so many watches that have date complication, they needed to have that first position for date change. Since this watch doesn't have a date window cut out, they just left that ghost position in. Again, it kind of cheapens the watch and something that I don't like about it. The movement is also non-hacking, but I guess it's similar to the real Moonwatch, so maybe not big deal. And the last thing that I don't really like about this movement is how it takes 1 second at a time, like any quartz movement. It's not your Japanese mecha quartz like Seiko mecha quartz movements where they take 4 times per second. So it gives a more smooth appearance. It almost looks like a mechanical movement, where this one looks and feels very much quartz. And the last big negative with the watch is the strap. It looks great on pictures and on video, but if you're planning to wear this watch for more than 5 minutes at a time, you are advised to change the strap because it's pretty much unwearable. It's too thick, it's kind of clunky, and because the watch itself is so light, I believe that this strap weighs almost as much as the watch, which throws the whole symmetry off. It's just very uncomfortable. If you're buying these watches and you're planning to wear it, expect to change the strap. Now that we got some of the negatives out of the way, it's not all bad news. There are some positive attributes to this watch, like if you change the strap, then the watch itself is very comfortable because of course it has that classic Moonwatch dimension, which is very comfortable for majority of the wrists. And because the watch is so light, you can wear it all day without even feeling it on the wrist. The dial looks nice, printing is sharp, and of course it's a classic Speedmaster design, which everyone seems to like. You have both Omega and Swatch logos on the dial. I found it interesting that Omega logo was first, and it also seems a little bit larger than the Swatch logo. The crown is at the 3 o'clock position. It's signed with both logos, and just like the real Speedmaster, the crown is not screwed down, which gives the watch water resistance of 30 meters. I like how the battery covers have different planetary body of our solar system on them. I of course really like all the different available colors, my favorite being the one I'm reviewing right now, Mission to Uranus. Naming puns aside, the color itself looks nice and sharp. It looks different enough to anything else in the market, and it really stands out when you wear it on your wrist. When you put this watch on, you're kind of signaling to the world, hey, I'm not here to be serious, I'm here to have fun and have a nice colorful watch on my wrist. And that's a nice thing about this whole range of watches. If you want something a little bit more serious, a little bit more conservative, you can go with something like Mission to the Moon. If you want something more fun, you can go with Mission to Mars, Mission to Sun, or even Mission to Uranus. And for $260, it's actually not too bad. The way you should look at this watch, it's pretty much a Swatch watch through and through, and you're getting Swatch quality for what you're paying, but you are paying extra, maybe $75 to $100 to have that Speedmaster design and to have Omega logo on the dial. That's it. It's a Swatch watch that just happens to have these two extra things, Omega logo and Speedmaster design. But you are getting a Swatch watch. If you're expecting Omega type quality, you're not getting that. And unfortunately, I think that's why some people find negatives with this watch. When you see that Omega logo on a watch, you're expecting it to adhere to a certain standard, which this watch unfortunately doesn't. It's a Swatch watch, it's not an Omega. I find it interesting that back in the day, Omega as a brand was saved by Swatch, and nowadays, Swatch brand is being saved by Omega. Tim Mosso from watchbox.com has mentioned something on his Monday show that I found really interesting. By the way, Tim Mosso, really awesome dude. He talked about how Swatch watches were selling about 3 million units per year globally. With the release of Moonswatch and its popularity, now they're planning to sell 1 million Moonswatches per year in China alone. So they went from 3 million global total sales to 1 million in one country per year. And that's pretty good news for Swatch Group, I'd say. So is this watch bad? Well, it's bad if you're expecting Omega quality for $250. It's also bad if you paid multiples of the retail price. Let's say you paid $1,000, $1,500 for this watch and you're expecting a watch that represents that value. It doesn't. It's barely a $250 watch. And if you pay more for it, you'll be disappointed. Also, if you expect anything other than Swatch, you will be disappointed. It's a Swatch. That's all it is. My last favorite thing about this release and this watch specifically is the fact that this silly plastic watch seems to be bringing more younger people into watch collecting. Coming back to someone like my nephew who's 18 years old and only likes Apple Watch and Galaxy smartwatches, things like that. He doesn't care about analog watches. Well, now he wants to wear an analog watch, and that's a good thing. If this silly plastic toy brings more younger people into this hobby, well, that's only a win in my book. I appreciate you watching this video until the end. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We release new videos every week. And leave a comment in the comment section below. What do you think about the Swatch? Do you love it? Do you hate it? These were just my points, my thoughts. I'm not saying that I'm 100% right. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I always enjoy reading your comments. A huge thank you to my friend Sasha for lending me his watch for this video. You're a true champion. In the description of this video, there is a secret link. Check it out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye. The viewers have missed you. They're always wondering, what are you up to? Should we tell them what you're up to? Chasing the stick at the park, having lots of snacks, including watermelon, and just generally enjoying your summer. That's pretty much what you've been up to. Also snoring a lot, of course. A lot of snoring.